we'll just give it a few seconds and then we'll get going. I guess we could quickly just start off with Chris's comment. Hi, Chris. Thank you for joining. Yes, right. We are live currently on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/X, and also on Instagram. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Firstly, I'm going to introduce everybody. So I'm 𝐚'𝐤𝐬 𝐾oupé from Animal Justice Project. I'm the campaigns manager, and today I'm going to be the moderator for this live Q&A. So if anybody has any questions throughout, please comment them on whatever platform you are watching, and they should come through to us. So yeah, I'm joined by Claire from Animal Justice Project, who is the founder and director. Joined by Stephanie Lane, who is the founder of Speciesism WTF, Susan Clark, who is the campaigns manager for Speciesism WTF, Jamie Logan, who is an activist and podcast host, and Kelvin Tasker, who's a photographer and videographer. So the reason that we're doing this live Q&A today is because we've recently released a short film called 𝐚'𝐤𝐬𝐧. And if you haven't watched it yet, it's where the other 5 members of this live Q&A entered a standard UK pig farm to simply look at the conditions and the lives that these pigs have to face inside these, as I said, these very standard farms. It wasn't a completely horrific farm. It wasn't the worst farm that we've ever been on. It was by no means the best farm either. It was very standard in the practices, but it was really horrific to see, mothers trapped in farrowing crates, tiny babies, not having any life whatsoever, not being able to be mothered by their mothers, and also like the really sad conditions that they have to face as well. And obviously, we know that all of this is never seen inside supermarkets. It's never seen on the TV adverts or bus stop adverts, for example. So this is why we wanted to produce this short film to show people exactly what life is like for these pigs on these really horrific farms. So recently we've had our collaboration. So Animal Justice Project has been collaborating with Speciesism WTF. So up to now, that has included this short film 𝐚'𝐤𝐬𝐧, where we did the pig farm visit, but it's also been outreach events that we've been doing. So far, we've hosted 2 outreach events, the first one in Birmingham and the second one this past weekend in London. So that's where we've had the human-size farrowing crate with people inside. So the idea, which Steph could possibly elaborate on later, is to put humans in the place of the animals. And one of the big reasons of that is to build empathy with passers-by and members of the public, to get them to, empathize with the pigs and really put themselves in their position and ask, would they want that to happen to themselves or people that they know? Would mother and children like to be in that situation as the pig and her piglets? And then the other side of the outreach event is obviously, we're doing lots of interaction with the public. We're doing the leafleting and really building on those conversations as well, with the big focus on the art piece, which is the farrowing crate. So we've got 2 more events coming up as well. If there's any activists watching, we've got an event next month in Bristol. And the following month in December, we're returning to London again. So if there are any activists around those areas, please do come and join us. It's a fantastic outreach event. This past weekend, we had a great turnout, and we had some really great positive responses as well. And that's when we was at the Frieze art exhibition in Regent's Park. So just so people are aware, for those that are watching, the layout of this Q&A is that I'm going to be asking each of our guests today to ask them specific questions, and then obviously if people have additional questions, please do comment on the platform that you're watching on, and we can ask those towards the end as well. So what I want to do is I want to start with the question to really talk about the film itself. Is you know, what is the most difficult part about being inside the pig farm when we were filming this short video? So Steph, could we start with you?
Yeah. So I've never been on a pig farm before. It was my first time. So that in itself alone was just the worst, by far the worst thing I've ever seen or experienced. And I don't say that lightly because I have seen a lot of horrific things in my life. But that was by far just the most paralyzing in every way, mentally, emotionally, just even at some point. But for me as well, personally, on this specific investigation, I was also directing this short film, so I had to just be there and deal with this kind of duality of, you know, making sure that Calvin and I were still documenting everything that needed to be documented in the way that we planned it, but also just keep myself together in such a situation that I could have never anticipated how absolutely heartbreaking it was, or it could have been. You just could never imagine it. You can never possibly imagine these conditions. So that, you know, quite specific to the filming of this, for me, that was the most challenging part, was just to exist in these two places where my heart was just, I wanted nothing more than to save all of these beings. And then obviously you know, I couldn't at that moment. So I also had to carry on and stay focused with capturing all of this footage to share it with people, which is the way that it was the most I could do at that moment, to try and raise awareness.
Yeah. Calvin, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me was balancing. I'm there to do a job, which is to capture everything and photograph and film, and then also remain composed in an environment that, no matter the footage I've seen, you know, I'd seen lots of investigations before, and this was my first time going into like going undercover into a farm, and nothing could quite prepare you for what you're about to witness. And it was that trying to balance keeping focused on, you know, all the aspects of filming and documenting, and then what you're witnessing and the horror that is around you. It was so dystopian and cruel, and you're just thrown in the middle of it with a job to do. So that was probably the hardest, is remaining focused on what we were there to do, whilst our hearts are just breaking as a group. I think we were all united in that moment in the horror and the grief, and there was almost like a moment of panic once we saw it, and then we had to sort of refocus and get going with what we were there to do. So that was probably the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think obviously I didn't join on the night, but like when we've done like other farm visits as well, I think like, yeah, keeping that focus and just realizing exactly, you know, you've kind of got to have those lines to camera and like find those moments as well. I think it's really important to, yeah, remembering that it's really important to keep that focus, because you do kind of have that end goal as distressing as it is. Yeah, which is really sad. Yeah, so for those who are joining us, I think we've got like 42 people who are like watching us at the moment, which is great. So thank you so much for joining. So we're just going around the team at the moment, just asking what is the most difficult part of being inside the pig farm during the short filming. Jamie, did you want to go?
Yeah, I think everything that Calvin and Steph mentioned is what I also experienced, but just you're not really prepared for the smells and the sounds. You don't it was my first time as well being in one of these places, and it's way worse than I had thought it would be. And I think really the hardest part is staying focused, but then looking back at all these animals that we had to leave behind. And we wanted to just make sure that we were telling their stories and that we were accurately showcasing their lives and what their conditions look like. And so the pressure was on, because if we, hold the camera steady enough, or if the lighting wasn't good enough, then at least like I felt that we weren't doing them justice. So it felt like a lot of pressure.
Susan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, obviously the same as well. But and I was the one that was very nervous about going in, because I remember when I saw the first farrowing crate on a documentary, and I was paralysed. I was so traumatised I couldn't do anything for about a year, really. And I didn't want to be paralysed again, so I was nervous about going in case it affected my activism. And actually, I feel it empowered it. You don't, in the films, the films that I'd seen, you can't ever quite capture the pigs that have gone crazy because they're so confined in these pens, the pigs that have lost the will to live because they're dead on the inside. That was my absolute shock. As soon as we went into the farrowing crates, and the first pig we saw, she died from the inside, and she was just alive outside. And I tried to touch her, which was obviously pointless, and she just didn't react to anything. And then the pig that was so freaked out, that must have been its first time in the farrowing crate, and just going crazy, biting the bars, and just the confinement and how it sent them crazy. And of course, the farrowing crates are horrendous. The life of the mother pigs is horrendous, but then it's horrendous when you see the babies with their tails still raw. It's horrendous when finishing off pens. I just didn't realise they lived in so much poo. I didn't realise there was so much filth around. Flies, the giant cans of fly spray I looked at. I thought, this is going on to these pigs. The people are eating this as well. Like, how did we ever dream this up as a way of creating food? It's like Calvin says, it's so dystopian. This parallel world that we live alongside, and that most people choose not to look at, even though it's just around all of us all the time. So yeah, it's empowering, but devastating.
Yeah, I think that also adds on to the point of how hidden the industry is as well. Although many of us here have been vegan for a long time, or activists for a long time, we don't get the opportunity to go inside these pig farms, and obviously we see, I guess, myself and Claire go into farms somewhat regular, but for most activists, they don't get to witness it firsthand, and they kind of see the undercover investigations. But it's still, I think, when you're there yourself, you do realize how much this industry is absolutely fighting every day to hide exactly what is going on. Claire, do you want to add anything? Obviously, I've already mentioned that we've been inside multiple farms together, and I know you've been in many more over the years as well. So, is there anything that stuck out particularly for this farm?
I feel like obviously, I don't know. Different farms affect you in different ways, and I think the thing that I've found probably the most difficult, without kind of going through the obvious of what Jamie and Susan have mentioned, that it's completely different being in a farm to seeing a farm on a leaf, images on a leaflet, or even a video. It's just totally different. The sights, the smells, everything. But I think for me, I think maybe it was Susan, Stephanie or Calvin, just trying to focus on the job. And I think, I am, having been to a fair few farms, I am able to switch off. And I think it's just something I'm able to do. But I feel like because there was obviously a group of us, and obviously, it was very emotionally upsetting for all of us. And I feel like it probably made it more difficult for me, just because it was more difficult to switch off, because I was seeing the suffering that you guys were going through, as well as the suffering of the pigs. But as I think, as probably Calvin, who, by the way, you did an amazing job with, acting as the main photographer. So yeah, well done. But I think, it was trying to switch off in that group setting, seeing how much pain and suffering that everyone else was going through, as well as the pigs. That to me was the most difficult thing.
Yeah, I think the part about like seeing others inside the farm and how they react as well, that's something that's like got to me before as well, because I think like we're very similar in the sense of we can switch off slightly to the emotional side, and we just know to kind of go in and what we, you know, kind of what we need to show the public really by doing the filming. But yeah, by seeing other people's reactions, that does hit home as well. So yeah, just a reminder for everyone who is watching, if you do have any questions, if you post them on the platform below, then they'll come through to us and we'll include some extra questions at the end as well. And thank you so much for joining. So the next question that I want to cover, which again we can come to each of you, kind of like a combined question really, like what impact are we hoping that this film is going to have? And also like what can we as activists be doing to like end what we saw inside that farm? Steph, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think all forms of activism are valid, and I just think we need everyone who's watching and everyone who's out there who's vegan. I don't say plant-based, I say vegan for the animals, of course. Just to speak up and do anything, even just in their immediate circle, just talk about it, not be afraid, make friends that are activists or that do activism regularly, so they can just hear from them, you know, what the impact they're having, the conversations they're having, learn from them, and really just speak out in any way that they can, you know, with the skills that they have. Because it doesn't have to be, you know, how do I get into investigations, or, oh, I can never be an activist because I can't speak on a megaphone. You know, I'm not a host for a podcast. I can't do that. So I'm not going to be an activist. Even like, you know, just cooking for your friends, like showing them that you don't have to eat animals, you know, just like any little thing, everything counts towards like changing people's perceptions and speciesism and grain speciesism. So yeah, I mean, I hope that the film is useful in the sense that it is quite short. So I think like anyone can just share it easily, and it could get someone's, you know, just 4 minutes of their time is quite short and, you know, concise in that sense, and powerful, with the message being really clear. And it's not just, you know, this is about pigs. It is, but it's also very much about, you know, speciesism and whether, you know, whether someone would think it's okay for this to happen to them. And obviously the answer is no. So it shouldn't be happening to any animal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like there's so many different ways that we can be activists, you know, whether that's on the streets, inside a farm, or like online, or even speaking to like friends and family. They're all completely valid ways of being activists as well. So like, I really hope that when people see us do these kinds of things, it doesn't put them off being an activist in terms of like they can't potentially do that kind of level. But yeah, there's loads and loads of different ways that people can do things for the animals. I mean, yeah, there's loads and loads of ways. Calvin, do you have anything to add on the back of that?
Yeah, so I think in terms of activism, I would always encourage people to find their niche, their skill, or use what they currently have and transform that into a form of activism. So I was a photographer. I do wedding photography. And then when I became vegan and then eventually an activist, I was like, okay, how can I transfer those skills? So naturally I went into photography, but I kept the style and it's romantic way of capturing people's passion. So mainly through photographing other activists doing things. And then now I'm going undercover, I've just used the same skills that I've learned from doing weddings to capture animals, not in a romantic way, but the same sort of style of photography. So I would just encourage people to, whatever their skill is, and everyone's got one. Like you say, even if it's just cooking for your family, you know, find that skill, find that niche, or learn one. And then, you know, I know some people that just started doing photography that have been doing really well at capturing activists in action. So yeah, just find your skill, use it. And then in terms of what I hope for the film, I think there's a real, the film, because it's short and because it gives a real feel of what it's like to be there. It's quite dark. It's we captured the dinginess of it, and we can see in it the horror that's happening. So I want people to watch it, and they can share it with people. Say, just watch it, it's only 4 minutes, and then it really just transports you there. Especially the narrative of us going in and then masking up, and then suddenly we're there, and it goes straight into the horror. So I think that my hope is that people share it and that they just feel what it's like to be there, to feel what the pigs are feeling, that suffering, that feeling of being trapped. That's what I felt when I was there, is that I looked at these pigs and they just felt trapped there. So hopefully people can connect to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that is definitely portrayed within the film. I know obviously like it's something that we've all been involved in, and not to harp on that it's like something fantastic we've done ourselves, but I think like all of those messages definitely do come out of the film. And then I just want to add in as well, like obviously we'll come to you, Jamie, next, but I just wanted to add in, like I had a quick look earlier, and just on Instagram where we uploaded the short film, like that's been watched almost 56,000 times just on that one platform. And obviously it's across all different social media platforms, on YouTube, etc. as well. And that's not even including, people who have then like shared the link forward and, had various people watch it as well. So yeah, like it really has reached thousands, tens of thousands of people already. So hopefully it is starting to change some minds. Yeah, Jamie, do you have anything to add with that?
Definitely, yeah. Thank you. I think that what was said, I agree with as well. And I think that the goal of this film, of course, on a large scale, is to create something that is shareable, that gets people to go vegan, but also gets them to speak up about this issue and gets them to realize how much of an urgent and pressing matter it is. That every single second of every day, these animals are in these conditions, and this is like these are standard practices, but this is like almost as good as it gets. Like these farmers, these industries are claiming that this is like, Red Tractor approved, or this is like, and we're here to show you that, okay, this is not what's being shown on the commercials. And at the end of the day, all these animals end up at the slaughterhouse. So no matter what kind of life they live, like they still are being killed at the end of the day. And so the goal with this film too is to really humanize it in a way, to show that like, okay, you guys know us. We're just regular people that are going into this place to show you what's happening. And if we can go in there, anybody can. And that this is not dramatized. This is not something that like is made up. This is like very real. This is very, and by us being in there, it humanizes in a way that I think makes it relatable to the public and easier to watch, because they see us in there as almost like messengers trying to get the message out there. So yeah, it was an honor for me as an activist to be able to go inside this place and to really light the fire underneath me, to like show me this is why I speak up every day about this issue, because it is so pressing and urgent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Susan, can we come to you next? So yeah, just a reminder. So what we're discussing at the moment is what we hope that this short film is going to achieve, and also what can we do as activists, and like activists who are watching today as well. Like what can we do to try and stop what's happening inside these places? Susan?
Yeah, okay, so I guess 3 things that I'm hoping from it is, first of all, that you inspire people when they see it. Sounds like a positive thing to say from what you see, to inspire them, to educate them, and to make people want to go further and learn for themselves, because actually, unless they learn for themselves, they won't absorb it anyway. And it's about showing the truth. It must be the truth, because we as normal human beings went there and witnessed it. So this is the truth. So we're trying to pass that we're trying to pass that information on. So education, I do believe that everything that we do is about educating people, because people just don't know. Many people just don't know. So it's how do you get people, and how do you get people to look as well? Because people do tend to look away. So how do you inspiringly create things to make people want to look? So that's why we try to do things in an arty way. And obviously all approaches, because people learn in different ways. People are inspired by different things. You know, there's vegan runners. We met vegan runners at the weekend, didn't we? There's another kind of form. I teach in. I'm an educator, so I teach in schools as well. Like, there's just so many things that you can do, and I think it's important that we're all doing as much as we can at the same time as well, because that's how it makes change. That's how it looks normal. You know, and people need to see things 7 times apparently. So if they've seen it here, they've seen somebody doing it here, and they've seen somebody doing the same message here, then if they see things 7 times, they're more likely to take it in. So keep doing the 7 to 21 to 28, however many times, so that people see it and question.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to flag up one of the comments just quickly, because obviously you just referenced the outreach event that we did the weekend. And then we've got Kitty, who's commented, which I thought was really nice. I don't know whether everyone else is looking at the comments or not. But yeah, just that obviously, yeah, Kitty, thank you so much for joining, and that you actually have joined the presentation because of the outreach event that we did at the weekend, which, yeah, I thought is, yeah, brilliant. Which must be really lovely for you, Steph and Susan as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important. I do feel it's important that we inspire, that we all inspire other activists as well. And hopefully they come and they have fun, and they see that this is a different angle, and they want to join in. They want to set up their own groups. They want to think of something that matches their skills, that has nothing to do with what we're doing. To, you know, inspire. That's what we want to do initially.
Yeah, definitely. Claire, can you continue next?
Honestly, I don't think I've got anything to add other than, yeah, of course, just trying to share the video to as many people as possible, you know, friends, family. I think it's really important for us as activists to just never give up, and just keep coming up with new ways, new impactful ways to end suffering, end speciesism, and just basically just keep trying, keep coming up with new ideas, keep collaborating. Because I think, as Susan, as you said, like, just, you know, so many of us are doing the similar work. If we can get together and make ourselves, you know, more of a mass movement, a big movement, because we've got a hell of a job on our hands.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I want to do now is, so over the past week, using all of our different platforms through Speciesism and like Animal Justice Project as well, we've been asking for questions, people to send in questions beforehand. So what we've done is we've gone through and selected a question for each of the members who have joined the Q&A today. So yeah, we'll go through those now. And obviously, I keep saying, but if you do have any questions, please add them to the comments and they'll come through, and we're going to be answering those towards the end of the video. So yeah, Claire, we're going to come straight back to you. So in terms of anybody watching today, or like any vegans, activists, etc., do you have any tips for people, or kind of what should they do if they want to expose a specific farm? Say they've got a pig farm down the road that they know is you know, potentially bad. I know they're all bad, but if it's particularly bad, like what route should they take?
I mean, there's obviously lots of different routes that people can take, but one of them is to get in touch with Animal Justice Project, because we are actually really good at, when people actually do report issues on farms, or they've, you know, they've heard from a worker, friend of a friend who's reported abuse of pigs on a farm or cows on a dairy farm, what have you, get in touch with us, because we are pretty good. We've got a good team of investigators who will get to that farm with the equipment that's needed, with the expertise, and document, and they know how to get things in the media. We know how to get things in the media. So for sure, like there are things you can take as an individual. So if you didn't want to contact AJP and tell us about a farm, if you wanted to go yourself, there are certainly steps that you can take. And again, our phone line's always welcome. We do have a whistleblower telephone. I don't know if Ayrton, there's a way of popping that in the comments. Is there the whistleblower number?
Yeah, I can probably do that.
So it's on our website anyway, under the whistleblower page. So give us a call, drop us an email. We can help you, because we've done it a fair few times before. There's nothing worse than seeing something on a farm, not really knowing what you're doing, end up getting caught by the farmer, the police being called, not getting any evidence that can be useful for the media. So we can really help, because we're here to basically help activists. That's our job. That is our job. It's basically to prop up activism, to help activists, provide the materials they need, and share our knowledge. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, drilling down into more detail, there's things, for example, that we would always recommend, and that would be, for example, using biosecurity measures. So it would be always, wearing booties, gloves. When you arrive onto a farm, you would take GPS, film your GPS, the maps, get a newspaper so that you can film the date that you're there. All things like this will really help with the story. And if you do want to go down the media route, expose it in the media, then that will mean that your story can be covered. And there's other things that you can do as well. If you document conditions, or if you've received a complaint, you can contact your local trading standards or your local council. I think, is there a question here actually, Ayrton? Another question? Oh,
yes.
Yeah. How do you find the farms?
Hang on, I'll bring it onto the screen for everybody.
Oh, thank you.
I've not read it myself yet. But yeah, how do you find the farms? How do you know what type of farm, if it's RSPCA assured, whether it's farrowing crates or weaner pens, etc.?
I mean, if you're looking to film on a farm, it would really depend on what type of farm. But we're sort of experienced now looking at a map, looking at Google Maps, and knowing what a farm is just from the shape of the sheds. Like a cow shed would be a square shed. A chicken shed would have a long shed. You'd see the feed station. A pig shed, you would probably see the circular slurry, which is awful, like a slurry tank. So there's ways of looking at like online newspaper articles. If there's any farm that's been in the media, if you look on Google Maps, you'll be able to identify which type of farms they are. So in terms of what type of farm, yes, certainly just looking at Google Maps, having a look on Google, there's often been, for example, with an RSPCA assured farm, if you want to know whether the farm is RSPCA assured, there's often been newspaper articles about that farm. So so-called high welfare farmers are often loud and proud about their work. In terms of what they want the public to see. They won't be opening their doors and letting you see the reality, but they'll be shouting about it in the media if they've implemented green measures, for example. So there's often we often use newspaper articles to try to figure out whether a farm is RSPCA assured. In terms of eggs, we did quite an extensive undercover investigation into the egg industry earlier on this year. And we knew that the farms were RSPCA assured when we entered the farm, because there's RSPCA assured labels on the eggs. They're called like tickets or something. And they basically, if you go to the egg packing room, there's all these little tickets that are on the eggs, and it will have stamped RSPCA assured. So often it's paperwork like that. It's documents on the walls hanging up. Something on the farm, something on Google. It basically just takes a bit of digging around. In terms of pig farms, it's actually a lot more difficult. If you're looking at something like a chicken farm, it's relatively easy to find out whether, the name of the farm, what sort of assurance it is, what type of farm. But pig farms are actually notoriously difficult. For example, when I was at Viva, we worked out that Hogwood was a Tesco supplying farm, because literally somebody, a passerby, when we were at the demo at the farm, told us that it was a Tesco supplying farm. That's how we found out. So certainly with pig farms, it's a lot more difficult. Chicken farms, it's relatively easy. And I'd say dairy, there's probably a lot of news articles on dairy farms. Sorry, farrowing, I'm probably going over my time. Farrowing crates, obviously RSPCA farms don't have farrowing crates. So in terms of whether you're, I mean, I guess, for example, with chickens, you would be able to find out again through looking at Google Earth whether that farm is free range, because you would see on the outside the range. So you would see the shape on Google Earth of the perimeter fence. So generally, it's quite easy, again, with chickens, very easy to find out whether they're free range or not. Things like cages and barns are very difficult to distinguish between the two, because obviously barns are usually just farms that have had cages in it. The cages have just been ripped out. So from Google Earth, they'd be identical. I hope that's answered your question, but I'm more than happy to talk more about it later if you like.
I think we could have an entire video discussion just about that specifically, couldn't we? But yeah, I mean, I think like those parts that you mentioned, Claire, I think, as you say, just like dependent on experience as well. So I think like Google search is like something that's accessible to everybody, isn't it? And I guess like over the years of visiting different farms and looking on Google Maps and stuff, like as you say, like we could look at a Google map now and probably identify what species is inside majority of all of the farms just by shapes and like patterns and things like that. But yeah, I mean, Google is everybody's friend. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, so obviously we'll go to the rest of the team in a moment with some specific questions, but I thought it'd be quite nice to just bring forward a few like nice comments. So obviously we've got Chris, some really lovely comments here. We've got Joanna as well, who's watching. So hi, Joanna, thank you for joining. We have Joanne as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. We have Barbara, who's commented through X / Twitter, saying that she's been vegan for 40 years, which is just incredible.
Amazing.
Like that's what we're all aspiring to, isn't it? Right. And then yeah, we've got Mel and Steve, who's just left a really lovely comment as well, which I'll just leave for the time being. Steph, can we come to you next? So obviously you've created this, speciesism WTF, and the whole idea of like the art installation and bringing that into the activism realm to help animals. So we had a question in from somebody from New Zealand, and they were asking like, how can they do what you do in their own country? Would that be in terms of like, is there any room for like collaboration there, or could you give advice?
So we've actually had some of our events happen in other countries already. So what we do is we send a pack, like an information pack to them. So if there's an activist that wants to like kind of start their own chapter, or they just have a group of friends that do activism, so they want to put something together, we send over a pack. So for example, like with the 𝐚'𝐤𝐢𝐧 Women, we just send them everything they need to know about how to put the installation together. So down to like every last detail, with all the information of every costume piece, the placards, like send over the artwork for the placards as well if they want to get them printed, as well for the leaflets. I amend the leaflets. So just an example, the group in Toronto did it a couple of times now, and they needed the leaflet amended. So they send me their stats, and then I just amended it and send that to them, and they had them printed. So if it's New Zealand or anywhere else in the world, we've had it done in Melbourne, in Australia, lots of different places. If anyone wants to do any of the different installations we're doing, or in the future as well, we can, of course, send the pack over and also just be available just to provide support. And if they needed us to, jump on Zoom and talk about how they can put all of this together and that type of thing, we can do that as well. But also, we really want to encourage people to just kind of see what it is that we've done and just take inspiration from it and just do it. They don't even have to really get in touch with us at all. Or if if they feel like they just want to take one element of it, for example, and like kind of interpret it in their own way, they can do that as well. So it's not necessarily like copy exactly what it is that we're doing. It's fine if they want to do it that way, but we want this to spread as far as it can. So we're really happy to just talk to anyone, give them any advice they want, and then just let them look at it and just buy whatever they want to do with it, just make whatever they would like from it, and just, you know, again, it's just inspired by what we do, but the idea is to just really just push out the message, you know, if it's not okay for humans, it's not okay for any other animal. So however anyone wants to interpret my work, that's completely fine too.
Absolutely. I just wanted to show you this question that's literally just came through, just because it links on to what you're talking about now. So yeah, is speciesism going to come to the US?
So speciesism has come to the US already with Jamie. They did an amazing event in New York this January with herself and 3 other amazing activists there as well. It got a lot of attention. They did the 𝐚'𝐤𝐢𝐧 Women event. We would love it to continue to spread in the US. So again, just going off what I just said, if anybody wants to do it exactly how we've done it and get the information pack from us, or if they want to just take inspiration from any of the things we've done, by all means, please do. We really just need the message to go everywhere in every city all over the world to be as impactful as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're doing as well is like you're kind of setting a precedent for bringing art back into the movement as well, because like I can't particularly think of anything like in recent years in terms of activism where it's like solely focused on like an art installation like how you've done it, which I think is like incredibly effective, and it's probably why people around the world are so interested and wanting to host these events in their own countries as well. Also, Jamie, I think that was a big hint at you from Steph to do more in America. I think I definitely picked up on that hint right there.
Jamie's so busy; she can't do everything. But if she would like to do it, you know where I am. But Jamie inspires so many people, and I hope that, you know, people have seen what she's already done, and obviously take inspiration from that as well.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, we should definitely do more here in New York, and I mean anywhere in the U.S. It's much easier than you guys think it is to get a group together. People want to find ways to get involved, and I feel like, Steph, you set it up so that it's really clear. There's good instructions, and anybody can do this. So. Yeah, and I think another main part to bring up when we do these art installations is to make sure you have a talented videographer and photographer, because that's also what helps the message spread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the back of like, so the art installation that you've done so far. So obviously you've done, you've covered dairy, you've covered fishes, and obviously with the events that we've been doing recently, you've been covering pigs and farrowing crates as well. Susan, if we can come to you next. So obviously you're like managing like the campaign side of things at Speciesism WTF. So do you have any plans in the future to cover other species, so like turkeys or chickens? And if so, like, do you have any ideas of like how are you going to represent them?
Do we have ideas? Yes, we have many ideas. We spend many hours discussing those many ideas. But yeah, just to say that the target is that we were targeting the art world because it's about how you get people to engage as well. So engaging through the art world rather than having to look at a farrowing crate or having to think about pigs, having to think about that we come in indirectly. The art world wants to listen. It wants to be shocked. It wants to think. Art reflects society, and so is this a reflection of society that we're in our installations? Yes, they are. So it's a perfect medium for it. And we've developed as we've gone along. We've developed from the initial 𝐚'𝐤𝐧 Woman, which was iconic. The artwork. So we have the artwork. We have the installation. We hopefully have films that follow on as well. I mean, can you just imagine a film with humans instead of those pigs in the film? I just think it would be absolutely amazing. We just need lots of funding to be able to do that, please. So we're putting humans in the position of animals. We've done the 𝐚'𝐤𝐧 Woman. We did the the fish, they were really easy. The farrowing crate, because it's a piece of equipment, is a bit more difficult to transmit around. So our mission is to create installations that are easy for people to do, easy to set up, not too many props, so that everybody around the world can just, and not expensive to do either, so they can just easily create it themselves. So yes, people ask what next, what next? You know, we only started just over a year ago. Obviously, we want to do everything and anything. There's the obvious on the skins that we've talked about, and you can imagine how that goes. But we don't ever have them as animals. So that has to be clear, that it always has to be humans. So it's the imagination of how you get the human in that situation. So I guess ripping skin off is an obvious that we will develop. And people are always asking about chickens and turkeys. And that's actually quite a difficult one, because humans look so different to a chicken and a turkey. You can, you know, with the milk, it was easy. With pigs, because they're so similar to humans, it feels easier. And there's so many things to do with pigs as well. There's not just the farrowing crates. There is it's a really touchy, difficult subject, but you have the gas chambers, but can we put humans in a gas chamber? I think that might be a bit sensitive. I don't know. But with the chickens and turkeys, we have to think, what's the suffering that happens to the chickens? So it's their beaks. We don't have beaks, so we probably black their teeth out. They'd be bruised because they get the burns on their bodies, the urine burns. They're in a cramped space. The legs are broken. How do you depict that? So it's how do you think of every situation of suffering of every animal, and how can you depict it in a human form? And I think it's really exciting thinking of the ideas, and obviously Steph's artistic bent on it. And and we welcome ideas. If there's creative people out there, come forward, give us ideas. You've got ideas. Please, we want to hear them. So we're putting humans in the position of animals. And also the speech, we have a speech that goes with it. And I think with the chickens and turkeys, that will help a lot. For example, with the dairy, it's an ironic speech, which I originally dreamt of. So it would be, these are my women. I love my women. I look after them like members of my family. We do shoot baby boys. So it would be an ironic speech that would go with it, that would make sense, that would make people realise, oh my God, this is the turkey industry. This is the chicken industry.
It actually reminds me, Susan, of the a lot of these free range chicken companies, and they call them our girls. Oh, our girls. It's all like, the girls on our farms. Yeah, it's like it's just again that kind of like welfare washing, isn't it?
And it would be all, these are organic, these are free range. I look after them like as if they were pets. You would kind of that's the ironic twist, which hopefully is entertaining. Sort of light-hearted, entertaining, engaging, and it just makes people think, what the hell are these people doing? What is this? I need to stop, stand and think and engage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you are right in the sense of, like, with the birds, it's kind of harder to get people to like empathize with them a little bit. I think that's like something that we find within our campaigns. Whenever we're talking about birds, you definitely get maybe a bit less of a reaction, or even if you're talking to people on the streets about chickens, for example, you can see that the empathy is just not there. So that's something that we need to, as a movement, as a whole, we really need to work on that, and how we bring that empathy through. Calvin, I'd like to come to you next, because I realised that that came to you in a little minute. So in terms of, so obviously you were the brilliant videographer who filmed the short film again that we've released. So yeah, a huge thank you firstly for shooting that for us. I think the footage speaks for itself, really. In terms of like what you're witnessing when you're filming, how do you process that? Or when you're inside the farm and you're filming, do you kind of go into that like professional mode and you know what shots you need to get? Or is it like impacting you on the day, or is it like the days after?
So, firstly, well, thanks for asking me to film it. It was an honor to be asked to go in there with you all. I think there was, because it was my first, when we were first in there was a moment of panic, where everyone, just the realization of what we were seeing just flooded us, and you know, we were crying and we were just like in a bit of a panic mode. And then I think I was the first to sort of realize, right, time's short, we've got to crack on. And I sort of had to say to everyone, guys, we need to get going. We're here to do a job. We need to film. As much as we wanted to all put a piglet in our bags and, you know, liberate them, we weren't there to do that. So I just went into complete professional mode and was balancing photographing and filming, where to place lights in certain places, and I just went full professional, and until a few days later, to be honest, when we were out, I kind of started editing straight away the photos, and then I did sort of sorted through all the videos and sent them off to our editor. And then it was about 3 days later where I just broke down. I'd finished all the editing and stuff, and I looked at what I was editing, and I just broke down. I was in tears. I realized what I'd seen, and that would change me. I knew that I would never be the same, and even some of the decisions I've made in my life since have been a result of that. And then I text my wife, and I just said, "It's hit me. It's finally hit me what I've seen." But then I've managed to process that pain, and now it's fired me up even more to go out, do more. I've done more undercover investigations since, and now when I go in, I'm a bit more mentally prepared for what I'm seeing and what I'm photographing. It still hurts, it's still painful, and but there's much more of a, okay, this is the job, this is what we do, these are the shots I need, these are the photos I want to get in, get out, make sure everyone's safe, and then process it again once I finish editing. And I know that it's going to hit me. I know that wave of pain will hit me at some point, and now I'm ready for it. So yeah, that was my process.
Yeah, I think also that adds on to like what Claire mentioned earlier, in the sense of like when we go inside, you can kind of, I guess, like separate yourself slightly from the situation, because you do know that you are on a time limit as well. That's the other thing that I guess people may not realize is, obviously, if you are entering farms in the middle of the night, you know, you don't have hours and hours and hours. It depends on the time of year as well, you know, when the light comes up, and you need to be away safely from that property. Yeah, I think also when you were saying that, it reminded me a lot of like when we're processing our investigation footage as well. So like when we're going through that, we do kind of have to have a step back slightly, because we are obviously watching lots of really, really bad footage for many days at a time sometimes. So,
I wonder whether it's worth going on to Jamie, because I remember, Jamie, that you said to me when we left the farm that it's like changed your life. I just wondered, like, do you want to just explain why you said that? Because I thought that was just a really interesting comment, and it was something I remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. It is life-changing to come face to face with these animals, with these victims, and to see how pressing and urgent the matter is. And I think that I said it was so life-changing because I don't think any of us will ever be the same after witnessing that. And I think that there is like a certain level of, I have to turn it off and desensitize myself a little bit. But it is so horrific to witness that no matter what, it sort of subconsciously even goes into your psyche. And I feel that just throughout a lot of my activism, there's levels of PTSD there that set me off. And like, after going into a place like that, like I walk in the supermarket and just seeing the body parts on the shelf, it becomes that much more of a flashback and that much more of a horror movie of what is happening, what is going on. It's like we're in the Matrix. It's like people are having their eyes closed, they're asleep, and they just constantly take that blue pill and live in that ignorantly blissful state. And then it's like, we have taken that red pill and we decided to know the truth, but with that comes the pain. And so that's what I meant by that, is like, I will never really be the same after seeing that, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Like, I would take that red pill over and over and over again, because we need to get closer to the suffering in order to change it.
Yeah, I think everyone like here can definitely agree with that. I think what we need to do is, like, when we see these situations, obviously it might upset us, it probably is going to upset us, but if we just use that emotion as like the fuel to keep us going as well, that's what I try and do as much as possible. You know, when we are working on these investigations and it is really horrific, just try and keep those animals in mind so that you can make a difference with the work that you're doing. And the more people we show, the more people we tell, you know, it will make those long-term changes happen faster. Jamie, I'd like to stick with you for a minute. I think you've got like a really interesting angle as well to bring to this Q&A in terms of like what you do, because obviously you're the host of 2 podcasts. I find it super interesting, like personally as well, because podcast is like, it's not something that we've done here at Animal Justice Project. Like, I've never been on a podcast or anything like that as well. But I think, yeah, like it would be interesting to know your thoughts in terms of like, how can we use podcasts to like reach more non-vegans, and also like, can we utilize them in a way to inspire vegans to become more active for the animals as well?
Totally. Well, first and foremost, we got to get you on my podcast if you've never been on one.
Yes, definitely. Count me in.
So yeah, for me, starting my podcast, I started it back in college, and at the time it was called Under the Vegfluence, and the idea was to try to just find a way to get mainstream audiences to listen and to get their attention to animal rights issues. And then over time, it switched from being Under the Vegfluence to Jamie's Corner, thank God. And it just allowed me a platform and a voice to reach outside of the vegan community, and also reach inside the vegan community to give activists a support system, and to realize that you're not alone, like that we have each other. And so it's a safe space. It's a platform where I love to bring people on like you and anybody that's on here actually, to speak about the great work that they're doing. So it's a platform to elevate others' work, and also to just kind of try to reach outside the community in a fun, engaging way. So I think that as activists, as we said before, we got to keep getting creative, think outside the box, and not just get stuck in our little echo chamber. Because so often when we post a video, or when we are sharing these things, it sometimes stays within the vegan community, and we don't need to keep torturing ourselves over and over again. I think that like we really need to get this information out there further. And so that's why I find it so important to always place a camera on the activism we're doing, so we can amplify the message and maximize our impact. And Jamie's Corner podcast is a way that's sustainable for me to continue doing activism. So it goes back to what Calvin was saying, is it's like, use your skills. Like, I like to talk, so I'm like, oh, well, like, it's a podcast, right? If you're an artist, you can make signs, like, and you can make videos, like Stephanie and is doing. And so there's so many different ways to get involved, and podcasts are a great place where a lot of eyeballs are, because we have to look at the time that we're living in, and a lot of the eyeballs nowadays are on social media and on podcasts and entertainment, and so we got to target that.
Yeah, it's really exciting actually. I think, as I mentioned, like, podcast is not something we've done at Animal Justice Project, but it'll be something like I think would be fantastic for us, like in the future. So yeah, I guess we may call on you for some advice on that in the future.
Or Jamie could actually host the show.
Yeah, she could be our podcast host. There we go. That solves it.
I would love to anytime.
And your podcast's like Instagram handle, do you want to mention that in case people want to check it out?
On Instagram, it's Jamie's Corner, ITS Jamie's Corner, and then Just So You Know is the other podcast. J, Y. Okay, just so you know, just the letters of the first letters of my contact.
Yeah. And then just to flag to everybody that obviously because of the collaborations that we've been doing recently, especially through Instagram, everybody on here is their different profiles are tagged, so you can easily find Jamie's Instagram profile through there. And I know that your podcasts are in your bio on Instagram. So yeah, I mean that's the last question that we had. So they're all of the pre-written questions that we had from people who have sent in over the past week. I just wanted to, I know we've been going on for around an hour now, but I just wanted to see if there's any more comments that we've got. Kitty mentioned earlier, I think this is when we were discussing with you, Susan, about like how we bring the empathy forward for like birds who are farmed. And obviously, yeah, it's about cognitive dissonance. I mean, absolutely, that's like the driver of everything that we're trying to fight against, isn't it? And then bringing it back to our 𝐚'𝐤𝐽 short film. Yeah, thank you, Bernie. That's really, really lovely to hear. And then Stephanie, there's a fantastic little message for you as well. I don't know if you already saw that or not, but that's a really lovely message from Joanne. Yeah, so that kind of brings us to the end now. I'm happy, like, if anybody has anything else to add. Is there anything anybody wants to plug? Yeah, I mean, feel free to like add any additional comments, because obviously we've taken it in the terms of a bit of a group discussion, then we've done like individuals. So yeah, if there's any comments that anybody else wants to add, yeah, please feel free.
I will say that I'm really excited to see where Speciesism WTF goes. I think you're a really exciting little group, and just to say that Animal Justice Project is just super proud to be part of it. When I sent you that random Instagram message, I think it was it. I don't know who picked that up, but can we be your next partners, please?
I was like, oh my gosh, Animal Justice Project. I was on the train. I was like, I can't believe it.
So really cool. No, the honour is ours. We've never done anything like this. And let's just say to all of the viewers, watch this space.
Yes.
Because there might be some more collaboration work, mightn't there, Stephanie and Susan and Jamie and Calvin?
Yeah, super exciting.
Can I do a plug as well, to say that if anyone is inspired and wants to join us, set up a group or just do an odd thing or do a regular event, please contact us. We want all of you involved. This has to get into every city and every town in every country. So we need to get going on that. So please contact us. It's really good. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to like check out what we're doing at Animal Justice Project or what Steph and Susan are doing at Speciesism WTF, yeah, just check out our website, our social media as well, and you'll be able to see. And then just a quick reminder, I know I mentioned this earlier, but we may have some like additional people now. So next month we have another collaborative event in Bristol. And in December, we have another event in London. So please check out our social media for the details in terms of date, time, and location. But it'd be great to have like additional people come and join us for the outreach. We had a really great turnout this past weekend in London. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining this live Q&A. I think it's been a really, really wonderful discussion. And thank you everyone who's joined on like all the different platforms and commented and asked us questions, and also those who sent in the questions beforehand. They're the ones that we've been discussing today. So yeah, thank you so much. Oh, Sean's popped up. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Well done to everybody.
Sean is our campaign at Animal Justice Project. So he was organising from AJP the London events, and yeah, he's doing a great job. Yeah,
Sean's been very pivotal in our whole collaboration. So yeah, right. I guess we can leave it there. So yeah, thanks again everybody for joining, and hopefully we'll have potentially another project coming up at some point, and maybe we'll have another live Q&A after that.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much for joining.
See you.
See you
Bye-bye.
guys soon.
Catch you later.
Bye.